When Donald Trump entered the White House, the topic of tariffs is back in the spotlight. From the very start of his presidency, tariff wars with countries like Canada, Mexico, and China began, raising many questions. What exactly are tariffs? What are their benefits and drawbacks? Some believe that high tariffs will make the US wealthier, while others argue that it could lead to intense economic conflicts, harming not only other countries but also the US itself. In today's video, we'll dive into tariffs and explore their pros and cons. Natural resources aren't evenly distributed around the world. Every country has some resources but lacks others. Additionally, each country is capable of producing certain products and might even produce more than they actually need. Supplying resources and goods to different countries isn't just an economic matter. Military, technological, and political competition between major powers is so intense that even the smallest act of buying or selling by their competitors carries significant strategic importance, leading them to closely monitor every move. As a result, governments regulate imports and exports to maintain control over trades. One of their key tools for this control is tariffs. Simply put, a tariff is a tax that a government places on imported goods for other countries to gain certain advantages. The most important and obvious benefit of tariffs is generating revenue for the government to fund major projects and achieve national goals, like the taxes collected from citizens. This is why governments are generally interested in tariffs. Another key benefit of tariffs is protecting domestic industries. It becomes especially important when foreign countries produce certain products with better quality or at lower prices than local manufacturers. In such cases, allowing imports of these cheaper or superior products could cause significant losses for domestic producers. To prevent this, governments raise tariffs on those specific goods from competing countries. This increases the final price for domestic buyers, making locally produced goods more cost-effective, and demand shifts back to domestic producers. Their business continues to grow and develop. This protection also gives local industries the opportunity to improve, expand, and compete more effectively on the global stage. Another advantage of tariffs is boosting the domestic job market. It directly connects to the previous benefit, supporting local producers, because a strong domestic industry naturally leads to increased production, and more production means a greater need for workers, which helps to create new job opportunities. As a result, the internal economic cycle strengthens and the country's GDP grows. The final benefit of tariffs is their use as a tool for international political pressure. Governments, especially powerful ones, can use the threat of higher tariffs to achieve their goals in dealing with other countries. A recent example of this was seen when the United States threatened to impose 25% tariffs on goods from Canada and Mexico. The driving force behind this sharp tariff increase was to pressure both countries into curbing the flow of illegal immigrants into the US and controlling the smuggling of drugs like fentanyl across their borders. In practice, this political pressure through tariffs proved effective, as both Canada and Mexico ultimately complied with US demands. Of course, tariffs also have drawbacks that limit how governments use them. The most obvious drawback of tariffs is the rise in the prices of imported goods. As a result, people face higher living costs, and the increased flow of money in the economy can lead to inflation. As you may know, inflation is a highly sensitive and difficult to control phenomenon, especially when it becomes persistent. In such situations, central banks are forced to intervene, often by using tools like raising interest rates. However, this solution brings its own problems, such as triggering economic recession and weakening domestic production. So while tariffs offer many benefits, excessive or irrational use of them can drive inflation to a country's economy, causing serious damage and long-term economic challenges. Another major drawback of tariffs is that domestic producers, feeling safe from foreign competition, may stop striving to improve quality. Instead, they might create a monopoly, raising prices or lowering quality to maximize their profit margins. This problem, which arises from a lack of competition, can severely harm production cycles, consumer welfare, and overall quality of life within society. Another major threat of tariffs is the risk of retaliation. Countries targeted by tariffs rarely remain passive. They often respond with counter tariffs or by reducing political and economic relations. As a result, when your competitors impose tariffs on your country's goods, your exports suffer, and the losses from these trade barriers may outweigh the initial benefits. Moreover, retaliatory tariffs can escalate into a full-scale trade war, affecting countries worldwide and potentially plunging the global economy into a recession. As a result, despite all the benefits that tariffs bring to the US, it is crucial for the US government to carefully consider the risks and carry out thorough analysis to answer these three questions. Which products, which countries, and at what tariff rates should they impose tariffs? This decision could have a significant impact on the next 4 years in the US and around the world.